Hi, welcome back to Joe Blogs. If you've been following the channel, you know I recently posted a video called Not Long to Live. And the point of that video was to remind all of us that we're mortal. We're not going to live forever. We've got a limited amount of time on this planet. And so you need to maximise it by doing things that you enjoy, making sure you're living in the moment. And the response to that video has been absolutely overwhelming. I've had over 1,700 comments, which compared to the number of views that it's had is completely off the scale in terms of the percentage of respondents. And those comments have been really interesting. I'm often asked, do you read all of the comments that are posted on your channel? And I have to say that for some of the videos I post, I don't read all the comments because firstly, I don't have time, but secondly, they can be quite negative. If I post a video on Russia, for example, I tend to get hit with a lot of negative comments from people who are pro-Russian or pro the war or just think that I'm making things up. They often say to me, none of your predictions are coming true, Joe Blogs. I don't actually make any predictions. All I'm trying to do is report back with some data and information on what's happening and share that with you. And I will give some commentary. I'll actually pass some thoughts in terms of what I'm thinking about the situation, but I'm certainly not Nostradamus. I'm not trying to predict what's going to happen in the future, but a lot of people seem to be very hung up on that. I get repeated comments from people saying, none of your predictions have come true. Well, I didn't make any, so they're right. They didn't come true because there weren't any to actually check. But anyway, back to the point of today's video. I've had some amazing comments about that one video, and I think going forward I will start to make more videos like that. I want to expand the repertoire anyway because it gets a little bit boring just making the same sort of videos. I know a lot of you do like the data videos and looking at graphs and things like that, but from my point of view I would like to talk about other things that interest me. So that was one thing that I wanted to test the water with, and I think as we expand I'll get into some other topics and hopefully you'll enjoy those as well. But in today's video I wanted to pick out some of the comments because some of them were priceless. Some of them made me laugh. Some of them I think were really interesting in terms of the situation that some people are in. There's a lot of good feedback in terms of how you can actually go about making sure your life is better, how you can potentially live longer. So I thought it was worth just sharing some of the comments and actually giving some of you guys the credit, because some of the comments that I see in my section do give me inspiration for future videos. So I do read them off and on. I don't read all of them every single day because I don't have time to do that. But I genuinely do look at them throughout the day, throughout the week. And sometimes there is a comment that will spark something off and create a new video for me. So thank you to everybody that's ever posted a comment. But particularly in respect of this video, I wanted to highlight some of them. And I'll start off with some of the funny ones. One of the first ones that made me laugh was posted by Brian Freeman, who said, I plan to die owing huge sums to credit card companies. Sadly, I've peaked too soon. Now, interestingly, Brian did actually get quite a lot of responses from people giving him advice on what to do with his debt, and he had to admit later that it was a joke. He posted a follow-up saying this was actually just a joke, guys. But one of the things that created a lot of response in terms of that first video I posted was the average life expectancy. I said that you would only live to maybe 77 if you were in the USA, if you're a man, and around about 80 in most other countries. And that caused a lot of excitement with a lot of people. Renaud France posted this comment which said, wow, I'm a man in the USA and I'm 77. Am I dead? Or words to that effect. And Glenmire7511 said, I expect to live much longer than average because I only drink expensive whiskey and lots of it. And just before we go on to talk about that life expectancy point in more detail, I thought I'd show this comment from Bigman23, which I think is a joke specifically for anybody watching in Britain. He said, my mum passed at 98 recently. We used to joke with her saying she'll get a letter from Camilla. OMG, she didn't like that. Now, just to explain that joke to anyone from outside the UK, when you reach the age of 100, you get a letter from the monarch. It used to be a telegram, but now it's a letter. And obviously, historically, that letter came from Queen Elizabeth II. She was on the throne for over 75 years. She is seen as being the Queen in England. However, Charles has now taken over and he's married to Camilla and she's now officially the Queen. However, a lot of people in the UK aren't big fans of Camilla because they loved Princess Diana when he was married to Prince Charles. She is a complete icon in the UK. And so getting a letter from the Queen, but it being from Camilla, now has a very different connotation for a lot of old people. And I think they would get one from the King, they'd be happy with that. But if it came from Queen Camilla, then obviously some people wouldn't be too chuffed about that. And that's what Big Man 23 was referring to about his mum. But let's now talk about this life expectancy point, because in my previous video, I said that life expectancy is life expectancy. And if you were a man aged 65 in the USA, on average, you would only have another 12 years to live. However, lots of people pointed out to me that as you get older, you start to beat the averages, because the average takes into account every single person that's born. And so people who are dying as babies or youngsters or teenagers or in their 20s or 30s or 40s or even their 50s and 60s are pulling that average down. And if you make it to a certain point, if you make it to 60 or 70 or 80, then your life expectancy actually increases significantly above the average life expectancy. And I think the point was well made by John Blakelock, who said the expected age of death for a 100-year-old is around 102. And Ken from the UK, who was almost 84, said, I wondered why I was slowing down a bit. According to the average in your post, I should have died 4 years ago, so that would explain it. Now, as I said at the start of today's video, the purpose of that previous video is really to act as a wake-up call, just to remind you that you've got a finite amount of time left. And to highlight that point, Captain Coffee 37 provided a quote from his favourite Pink Floyd song. Now, he doesn't actually say which song it is, so if you know it, drop it in the comments below. And the quote is, "One day you find yourself 10 years have gone behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun." And in response to that, Jack replied, "Heck, I decided to pass on the starting line because there was a really nice garage sale 2 blocks back." Methany Holmes replied, "I just turned 50. How the hell did I get so old?" And Gerald Butler said, "The song terrified me when I was 30, broke and homeless. I pulled out of that situation, but those lines lingered." And in terms of a more serious wake-up call message, My 2 Cents posted, "I was almost killed in an auto accident at the age of 17. While recuperating in the hospital, I shared a room with a man that had retired from a railroad company. Before retirement, he planned to retire and ride the rails with his wife to show her all the places he'd been. Shortly before he retired, his wife passed away. After retirement, he was diagnosed with cancer, which caused him to spend most of his time in medical facilities. I decided that I was going to do all the things I wanted to do while I was young. I'm now retired with many great memories. There are only 2 minor things left on my bucket list. To paraphrase a saying, live like you will die tomorrow. Learn like you will live forever." So I guess the next question is, what should you be doing? What can you do to maximise your time? Well, the answer to that is whatever you like. What makes you happy? And I'm not talking about your family or your partner or your children or anything like that. I'm talking about you. What makes you happy? Do that, and then you're maximising your time. Steve Matthews, who's 71 years old, totally agrees. And he said, "That's why I try to cram in as much YouTube as I can watch every day." Which both me, myself and Screaming Dizbusters agreed with. And Ian McDonald said, "Don't knock bumbling around. Smell the roses, watch the sunset, plant and harvest fruit trees in the garden, take care of the family." And in response, Simon Templar said, "Quite. All these youngsters tearing around thinking that you have to do more are more missing the point. We cannot all be footballers, rocket scientists, prime ministers. There is dignity in whatever it is that suits you." So as the old saying goes, it's horses for courses. It has to be something that suits you. For a lot of people, they're concerned that they're going to outlive all of their friends and family. Redo posted, "My grandmother's brother lived to 103.5 years. His health was extraordinarily good. At 101, he was still looking and living like an 80-year-old. His biggest complaint in life was that he had to live his last years without any real friends. They were all dead." So in order to get out there and meet some new people, lots of you suggested doing new things. Jim Melton Bradley said, "I'm 73 and after a heart attack when I was in my late 50s, my wife and I started cruising regularly, whilst I took up my music again and joined a rock band." To which Try Science replied, "I noticed there's never any rocks in rock bands, except perhaps the Rolling Stones." And Jim replied, "If there were, they would be called rocks bands. Ho ho. Chow Fun posted, at 45, I decided to take up pottery because it's always something that interested me, but I kept putting it off for one reason or another. I found a studio a 3-minute drive from my house, took several classes, I went to an open studio 4 to 5 times a week, and now I have an online shop that has turned into my side gig, and it's been a blessing for my mental health. And Freedom of Speech replied to that saying, brilliant, we all need a reason to get up in the morning. And probably the most inspiring of all of the comments came from Clavo that said, I've just lost my right leg at the age of 70, so I need to put together that wheelchair frisbee, coffee and poker recreation club. Now, if you follow my videos, you'll know that I like to wrap up with a summary and conclusion, bring everything together and then leave you with whatever the takeaway is. And I think the takeaway for today's video is that lots of people have provided comments talking about what you can do to try to live longer, to have a happier and healthier life. And the comment that really caught my eye on this topic was from Alan Ogilvie, who said, I'll be 72 in April and watching this video after a 25-mile bike ride. Too many people go downhill when they retire. After a busy working life, it's not easy to adjust to having so much time on one's hands, no office to go to Monday to Friday, no regular routine, and the loss of work colleagues. As a result, many people sink into a depression and a dark hole where they don't want to do anything but mope around the house with the TV on as company. It's so vital to have hobbies and interests, whatever they may be. The most important thing is looking after yourself. Join a gym would be my number 1 tip. Number 2, cook healthy food and eat your own food as much as possible. Number 3, avoid processed foods. Number 4, take naps every day. Number 5, have a positive mental attitude despite the horrible dilemma we find ourselves in. Number 6, keep sexually active. Number 7, build up a line of credit and treat yourself occasionally. And number 8, die broke but loved. So hopefully you've enjoyed this slightly different video to my normal style. I wanted to go through the comments because there were so many really good ones, and I think there were some really good points, and hopefully it's put a smile on your face and also maybe sown a seed of thought, something that you can think about, ponder over. Maybe will get you motivated to start doing things more, or maybe just appreciating the time that you've got. Even if you're not doing anything, as long as you're appreciating that time and you know that you're doing things for the right reason, then that's really what I'm trying to achieve here. Get everybody enjoying their life as much as possible. And as we've said today, it doesn't really mean that you have to go out and do a 50-mile bike ride or start something entirely new. As long as it's something that you really enjoy and is a good use of your time, then that's the point. So hopefully you have enjoyed today's video. If you did, then please give me a thumbs up. And here's something to put a smile on your face.